It's time for the Closed Pyramid, where we talk lower league soccer in America. Covering USL Championship, USL League 1, USL League 2, MLS Next Pro, NISA, and much more. Now here's your host, Jordan Wiegand.
Hello and welcome to the Closed Pyramid, a podcast about lower league soccer presented by the Stateside Soccer Show. We're going to be probably focusing most of our attention here on the USL Championship and then moving on to USL League 1, NISA, and MLS Next Pro as we usually do here. But this is our bi-weekly show. Every other week we get together here to talk about lower league soccer and what that is like so far. It's been a fun show. You know, I started this a while ago and then kind of stopped doing it for a bit. Now I'm back doing it, and you know, part of that was having to make it bi-weekly. The original goal was to do this every single Sunday. But it's exhausting. It's exhausting every Sunday to get up and be like, all right, now I got to prepare for the show. I got to get everything ready. But, you know, thankfully they do put together nice 4-minute package highlights because we can't watch every game, right? These are all on at the same time MLS games are on, and it's like picking and choosing what you're watching, how many screens you can have, all that good stuff. But I am very happy to be talking about these USL Championship games, especially the ones from this weekend, because they were there was a lot of action. There was a lot of good goals, good assists that we're going to dive into here. But I'm just going to share my screen here as we look at the table for the Eastern Conference so far in the USL Championship. And surprisingly, it's Charleston Battery on top, though they did just lose. They also drew since the last time we were on here. They drew with Louisville, and then they go out and lose the Colorado Springs Switchback yesterday, and that leaves them still top, right? Louisville is in second place. They still have a negative goal differential. We talked about that from their loss where they lost to Sacramento Republic 5-0. But, you know, in April, they've been on a good run, except for April 1st. You know, starting April 8th, where they beat Detroit City, they beat San Antonio. In the last 2 weeks, they drew with the Charleston Battery, and then they drew with Memphis 901 yesterday as well. So they're probably feeling a little better. They definitely want to get these goals up, you know, because like we said last time, if you take out that game where they lose 5-0, they'd be at a positive goal differential. They'd be at 7-5. Even if they only gave up, 2 goals, they'd be at like 7-7 or something, right? Like they would not be as bad as they currently are in the goal differential department. But they're only 1 point behind first place. And if the Battery continue just drawing and losing like they did in the last 2 weeks, then there's a chance for Louisville to move up here. Louisville does face Miami next, while Charleston faces Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is the worst team in the Western Conference, and you know, only 1 point better than the worst team in the Eastern Conference. So maybe there's something Charleston can do there to kind of get back on track this this upcoming week. The first loss of the season was this weekend for Charleston Battery. They were undefeated. They had 4 wins, 3 draws going into that match against Colorado Springs Switchback, and they just couldn't pull it out. They did come back, though. It was like, I think it was 2-0, and then Charleston Battery equalized, if I can remember that correctly. Yeah, it was 2-0, and then they pulled one back. All those goals coming in the first 27 minutes of the game. Okay, yeah, Birmingham Legion in third. They're going to be playing later today at 5 p.m. Eastern time, but last week they beat Orange County SC. Loudoun United sit fourth. They just lost to Phoenix Rising. Phoenix played a really good match in that one, scoring, early and often to make it 2-0, and then Loudon pulled one back, and then in the 90th plus minute, Phoenix put it away with a really nice finish. Pittsburgh Riverhounds sit 5th. They last drew against Indy 11 yesterday, and the week before that they lost to El Paso. So they're on a little downward trend. They only have 1 win in their last 5. They have 2 losses in their last 5 and 2 draws. They've played 8 matches. We're getting deeper into the season here. Miami sits 6th. They have a 0 goal differential. And again, that the outstanding thing here is that Louisville has that -3 goal differential, but sits second. And then everyone else is at 0 or above in this top 6. So, that really just shows that one game really screwed their goal differential up, because they're still getting wins, right? They're still getting wins and draws. They only have 2 losses. But Tampa Bay sits 7th. They have a -4 goal differential. They have 4 losses on the season, 3 of those in their last 5 matches. So they have been on a little downward turn. And they were, a good team last year. Kind of interesting to see how fast they've fallen. But they did beat Detroit City, which, I mean, who isn't, right? Detroit only has 1 win right now and 1 draw. They've lost 6. Not great for Detroit City. And Tampa Bay also lost against San Diego last weekend. Tulsa sit 8th. They drew against Sac Republic, which is a pretty big achievement with how well Sac Republic have been playing. And they also, that was their only game. Last time we recorded, I think we had already talked about them losing the Charleston Battery. So, yeah, they only played once in this past 2 weeks. Indy 11, they just drew with Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and they lost to Monterey Bay in a 3-2 shootout there. That was a high-scoring affair. Memphis 901 sit 10th. Like we said earlier, they drew with Louisville, and then last week they beat Rio Grande Valley. Hartford Athletic sit 11th. They just beat the Oakland Roots 2 weeks ago. They have not played since. All right, so they're still in 6 games. 6 games. Same thing with Memphis. 6 games. They did play an Open Cup match, though. Detroit City, like we said, sit bottom. They have lost 4 of their last 5 with 1 draw, that draw being against Miami. But recently they lost to Sac Republic, and they lose to Tampa Bay. Over on the West, Sac Republic sit top, 18 points. They've only conceded 2 goals all season. One of those coming yesterday when they faced Tulsa and drew. And the other one was, I think it was like week 1. But 12 goal differential. They've scored 14. They're looking very, very sharp. They have not lost. They are the only undefeated team left since Charleston Battery lost yesterday. Colorado Springs Switchbacks, they have been very good this year, too. They just beat Charleston. We talked about that. But they sit second with 16 points in the West. They beat Charleston, and 2 weeks ago, they beat New Mexico United. San Diego sit third. They did just lose a game to El Paso, or else they could have leapfrogged to second place if they've gotten 3 points. And the week before, they beat Tampa Bay Rowdies, as we just talked about. El Paso sit 4th. They are on a 3-game win streak, by the way, as they beat Orange County. They beat Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and they beat the San Diego Loyal. San Antonio FC, the reigning champs, sit 5th in the West. This is probably the shock for me right now, but they're only 5 points out of first. But they are on a very bad form here, as they only have 1 win in their last 5. They have 3 draws and 1 loss. That loss was against Louisville in that rematch we talked about 2 weeks ago. They drew with Phoenix Rising. They drew with Las Vegas Lights 1-1. And Las Vegas Lights is literally the worst team in the conference. So San Antonio not looking sharp to start the season here. Monterey Bay sit 6th. They just drew 0-0 with Rio Grande, and they beat Indy 11 in that shootout we were talking about, 3-2. They have 12 points on the season. They have the most goals in the West, by the way, 15. But they give up 12. Phoenix Rising sits 7th, 10 points on the season. Their number is 10, right? 10 points on the season, 10 goals scored, 10 goals conceded, 0 goal differential. They only have 1 loss on the season, though. They're undefeated in their last 5. So Phoenix Rising starting to look pretty good. This game was great, by the way. 3-1. We talked about that. They were awesome. Oakland Roots sit 8th. They just drew 0-0 with Miami, but then they had 2 losses in a row before that against Loudoun and against Hartford Athletic. 2 wins in their last 5. That's their only 2 wins on the season. They got to start picking it up a bit. New Mexico United sit 9th. They have 7 points, a -1 goal differential, but they did just win and break that streak that they had where they had, at this point, they had 2 losses. If we're looking at their last 5, they have 3 losses, a draw, and a win. They really needed to kind of get back on track here, and it was against Orange County SC, and this game was pretty fun here because we had Hurst scoring early in the game here, 22nd minute, assisted by Josh Doling, and then an own goal by Josh Suggs on the 58th minute. But here's where it got really, really great, is the beautiful soccer that this team played. The second Greg Hurst goal in the 63rd minute. This assist by Josh Doling, by the way, is awesome. Go look it up. I'll see if I can find it somewhere to share it on our socials as well. But the way he brings the ball's kind of jumbling around, he brings it down. He makes a great nutmeg through the defender to find Greg Hurst, who's making a run into the box, and then Hurst puts it away. Beautiful setup, really great soccer. It was awesome. And then the third goal, Sergio Rivas, assisted by Josh Doling again, who had all 3 assists, by the way, was another great another great goal and setup there. So, again, go watch the highlights of this game because Doling had 3 assists. He was, what Fatma has 9.4 star rating, match rating for Doling. He was great. Rio Grande Valley sit 10th with a draw against Monterey Bay, and then they lost to Memphis last week. Orange County sit 11th. We just talked about their loss, and they also lost to Birmingham Legion 2 weeks ago. And Las Vegas Lights sit bottom. They have no wins at all this season. They have 5 draws. They only have 1 loss. That's the interesting thing, right? Is if they can convert some of those draws into wins, they'd be in a much better spot. Right now, what they're currently doing is just drawing and not losing. Their only loss was 2 weeks ago against Miami. It was 4-1. Other than that, their draws are 1-1, 2-2, 0-0, 2-2. Like they're still scoring goals, 7 goals, giving up 10, but only 1 loss to start the season. So if Las Vegas can kind of turn that around, converting some of those draws into wins, I would feel a lot better about this team. But so far, it just seems like they can't. Nothing's really going their way here, unfortunately for them. So that's the USL Championship there, the current status of that. But it was a pretty packed weekend. I definitely recommend, if you haven't watched some of those highlights or watched the full games on ESPN Plus, go watch some. There's some great soccer being played at this level, which I think is something that gets overlooked. I complained about, some of the broadcast quality, was it 2 weeks ago? And I still have some of those complaints because the San Diego match, like the camera's mounted so high, it looks like you're looking down, like you're on a balcony, like looking down at these players. I'm not really sure what their stadium is like. I do have a complaint about League One, but this is more of a what are you going to do about it type of thing. And maybe another reason, an example of why we're not ready for some sort of promotion relegation. But North Carolina FC sit top of USL League One right now. They beat Greenville Triumph yesterday. This was an interesting game. This was an interesting game. So this is one of the ones I was watching. This is played at Paladin Stadium, which is where Furman College plays their games. This was a home game for Greenville Triumph. But what was interesting about this match is one, the football lines, right? And it's not like just lines. This was, completely painted. You have the end zone, you have the end lines, you have the yard lines, and I get it. Like, these teams are going to have to play where they can play. I'm not like against that or anything. But one thing I find interesting about it, I guess, is just it's hard to watch. And what I mean by that is it takes a bit to adjust. When you're watching a game that is played on a football field, and these are turf fields for colleges, right? So there's not much you can do. And I used to do this volunteer work for the Baltimore Bohemians back when they existed. They played in Bel Air, and it was at this like rec council, soccer field that's also a football field that is turf, that is also a lacrosse field, right? So you have 3 different sports playing there, which means you have 3 different sport lines all over the place. And what I will say is it is tough. It is tough. Now, I was a ball boy at times. I was also somebody that set up the field and tried to get, everything, water for the people, and sold merchandise. I did everything there pretty much. And it is so much tougher to kind of focus on what is out of play and what isn't, because sometimes your mind is wired for like white lines, like the soccer lines are usually white and football lines are white and the end line is white. But what people I don't think realize at times, especially people that are not familiar with soccer at most, like I think a soccer field kind of looks smaller when you're watching it on TV, obviously. And a football field sometimes looks really large because they have all the lines and like it looks different. And there was people in my family and people in my extended family that have no clue about soccer, that have no clue that it is longer than a football field and wider than an American football field. But does it really get pointed out when you're watching it with the football field lines? Because every time this ball approaches the end line, my mind starts thinking you're out of play, but they're not, because you're going by the yellow lines for the soccer field. And let me say, sometimes the ball gets lost. It's a white ball. The ball is on the end line. You're on TV. It's a low production quality for USL League One. Sometimes you're sitting there like, I don't know where the ball is. And it's not like a great viewing experience. Now, of course, the you have to do what you have to do as a soccer team. If you're Greenville Triumph and that's your only option to play in, and people show up, people were at the game, people watch it, and you know what? It's easier to watch in person than it is on the TV. I think in person, I think you adjust more and you have a better chance of seeing the ball than when you're watching on a screen and the ball gets lost, or the camera guy is delayed and moving the camera during a shot, and you're like, I don't know where the ball went. That was kind of my feeling watching this game. Now, also, what was interesting about this game was there was a penalty called in the 19th minute, or, before the 19th minute. Mentzingen, who is the player that goes up to step up and take the penalty, goes up, and it is like a rocket. Bounces off of the keeper, right, like a save, comes back out to another player, Luis Perez, who hits it in. And it was kind of like bam, bam. Like there's like no stopping it. Boom, boom, goal. So that was interesting. And then there's another penalty in the 37th minute, which then Mentzingen does hit and does convert. And then in the 90+4, Daniel Wu pulls one back, and then they only had 30 seconds left, so couldn't really put it together. But it was a nice consolation goal for the Greenville Triumph. But North Carolina, only one loss on the season. It was not in their last 5 games. They've only played 6, which means it was the first game of the season. They have 4 wins, 1 draw in their last 5, with this one against Greenville yesterday, and the week before they beat Chattanooga 3-0. Charlotte Independence sit second. They have not lost at all, but they have a lot of draws. 4 draws, only 3 wins, or else they could really, if they convert one of those draws into a win, they're, above North Carolina. Now they do have one game more than North Carolina so far as well. But Charlotte Independence only given up 3 goals. Pretty good. South Georgia Tormenta FC, they sit third. They have 3 losses in their last 5 games, though, with 2 wins. They have not drawn yet to start the season, which is why they're so high. They have 3 wins, 4 losses, no draws, and a negative 3 goal differential. Union Omaha sit fourth. They have 8 points on the season. Richmond Kickers have also only conceded 3 goals, but they've only played 5 games. They sit 5th with 8 points. Chattanooga sits 6th with 7 points. Greenville Triumph sit 7th with 6 points. They have 3 losses in their last 5. Again, they've only played 6, but they have 4 losses, no draws, 2 wins. So there's only 2 teams that have not drawn yet, and it's South Georgia and Greenville. I would love for them to play each other and draw. Let's get that knocked out. Forward Madison sit 8th. They're kind of disappointing this season. They've only played 4 matches. With one of them yesterday, they drew with Charlotte Independence. Before that, they hadn't played since the 15th. Northern Colorado Hailstorm sit 9th. They've only played 4 matches to start the season as well. One Knoxville SC has only played 4 matches. They sit 10th with 4 points. Lexington sit 11th. They played 6. They have 4 points. And Central Valley Fuego sit 12th. They've only played 5 games. They have 4 points. They have 3 losses in their last 5, 2 in their last 2. Not great. Not great for Central Valley Fuego. But there's your table. USL League One, only 12 teams in the league this year. So not much to talk about. That's probably part of the reason why it's tough to have everybody scheduled at the same time. Plus, we're going to be looking at the U.S. Open Cup here in a bit, where some of these teams also played, and we'll kind of give an update on how that went for them and kind of what games are coming up in the U.S. Open Cup. But first, we're going to go take a look at NISA, where my Maryland Bobcats play. They've still only played 2 games in the season. They beat Club de Leon 5-1 April 22nd. Before that, they'd only played 1 match since, so they've played April 1st and April 22nd. I've ranted enough about that. We're not going to keep ranting about that. Chattanooga sit first with 4 games played. They have 10 points. They have not lost. Bobcats have played 2. They sit second with 6 points. They have not lost. They've only conceded 1 goal. Chattanooga has not conceded any goal yet. Gold Star FC Detroit sit third. They have 6 points after 4 matches played. Michigan Stars sit 4th. They've only played 3 matches. They have 5 points. They're undefeated as well then. LA Force has played 3. They have 1 win and 2 draws. They have 0 losses. Savannah Clovers sit 6th with 4 points. Albion San Diego have played 2 matches. Remember, there was a while where they hadn't played any. And they lost to Chattanooga 5-0. And then they go out there and draw with LA Force 1-1. They have no wins. Only scored 1 goal in the season. Not great so far. Club de Leon have scored 2 goals in the season. They have played 4 matches, 3 losses, 1 draw, no wins. And City Union sit 9th. They have 2 matches played and 2 losses. Not really much to talk about NISA here. Again, kind of the question is, are they going to continue, right? Or do some of these teams have to jump ship to like USL League 1, USL League 2, USL Championship? Because I don't know how they can continue. 9 teams in the league. I don't know. Not feeling Not feeling super great about that. Their upcoming matches, by the way, so they have no matches today. They all play on Saturday, May 6th. We have one team, Chattanooga, Savannah. May 7th, one game, San Diego and Gold Star, Detroit. And then by the time we record next time, City Union, Maryland Bobcats. Bobcats will only play their third game of the season on May 13th. They haven't played since mid-April. Such a bizarre schedule. All right, let's look at the MLS Next Pro. Crown Legacy. This is Charlotte's lower league team here, by the way. They sit top of the East. They have not lost to start the season here. They started with a draw, and they have 4 straight wins. They just beat Columbus Crew 2 yesterday. They beat Inter Miami 2 weeks before that. Or actually, no, they beat Columbus a week ago. And 2 weeks ago, when we last talked, they had just beaten Miami. So, again, uneven schedules sucks. Orlando City B sit second with 11 points. New England Revolution 2 sit third with 9. They have 2 straight losses, though. The New York Red Bulls sit fourth with 2 straight wins, but they have 9 points. Columbus Crew 2 sit fifth. They have 8 points. They just lost a week ago to Crown Legacy, but they've only played 4 matches. NYCFC 2 have played 4 matches. They sit 7th. FC Cincinnati 2 have played 4 matches. They sit 7th with 7 points. Atlanta United 2 sit 8th with 7 points. They've played 5. Chicago Fire FC have played 5. They sit 9th with 6 points. 3 straight losses for the Chicago Fire FC 2. Inter Miami CF 2 have played 5. They sit in 10th place with 6 points. They did just beat Huntsville 4-3. Philadelphia Union 2 sit 11th. They have 5 points on the season. They had 3 straight losses for a bit, but now on the 16th, they beat Chicago Fire. And on the 23rd, they beat Toronto in penalties. Huntsville City FC sit 12th place. They have 3 points, 5 games played, no wins. No wins yet, it says, but they must have gone to penalties, so it's a draw. But they win in the shootout, so they get 2 points. There you go. That's how they got it, and a draw. Toronto FC 2 have 13th place, 1 point, 4 straight losses. But where did okay, so again, so FOTMob doesn't really translate this well, but they just lost to the Union in shootouts on the 23rd, so they still get a point for the draw, but they don't get a credit for a win. They don't get a credit for a loss for losing the shootout. They get a draw. They get 1 point. Union gets 2 points because of the draw because they won the shootout. FOTMob can't track that stuff well. So it looks like, they lose 8-7 to the Union, but that's not the case of what happened. Over in the West, Austin FC 2 sit top of the West. They're in first place. They have 16 points. I'm sure the Austin fans wish that their senior team was playing this well. They have not lost. Colorado Rapids 2 sit second. They have not lost to start the season yet. They did have a draw that was a penalty shootout that they lost, but not an official loss. Vancouver Whitecaps sit third. They have 11 points. Minnesota United 2 sit fourth with 10 points. North Texas SC sit 6th with 9 points. Tacoma Defiance sit 6th with 8 points. Sporting Kansas City 2 in 7th with 8 points. San Jose Earthquakes 2 in 8th with 6 points. Real Monarchs sit 9th with 6 points. Houston Dynamos sit 10th with 5 points. LA Galaxy 2 sit 11th with 5 points. Portland Timbers 2 sit 12th with 3 points. St. Louis City 2 sit 13th with 3 points. And Los Angeles FC 2 sit 14th place with 2 points. Not great. But again, we don't really know like what's at stake here for MLS Next Pro, right? Like they it's a lot of academy kids. The wins and stuff may not actually matter at all. I'm really interested to see how this stuff gets judged later on. Like, are we celebrating MLS Next Pro titles at all? You know, like, is it just like a farm building, or are we supposed to actually care about this? Are we supposed to actually care about the results on the pitch? Is my question when it comes to MLS Next Pro. But they got a slate of games today. And what I do like is that usually they're playing against teams that they played against in the league. Not always, but pretty close. Like Revolution 2 and FC Cincinnati 2. They just played each other yesterday. They're playing each other as the second teams today. That's cool. Same thing with Fire and Red Bulls. But some of these are not the case, you know, because Timbers just played St. Louis, but Timbers 2 is playing Monarchs. St. Louis City 2 is playing the Whitecaps 2. It's interesting. I don't know how they choose to schedule these, but it's interesting. So next time we'll be talking about that. Now, before we move on to the Open Cup matches, we're going to go back to the championship. We're going to look ahead to what matches are coming up in the next couple of weeks, if there's any big matches. Okay, so today's Birmingham Legion and Hartford Athletic, 5 p.m. Wednesday, midweek, we get Miami FC versus Birmingham Legion. So Legion is playing today and Wednesday. Kind of sucks for them. Friday, we have Rio Grande Valley versus New Mexico. We have Colorado Springs Switchbacks versus El Paso at 9 o'clock. Monterey Bay versus Pittsburgh at 10. And Las Vegas hosting Charleston Battery at 10:30. Saturday, May 6th, we have Hartford Athletic and Memphis 901 at 7 o'clock. Loudoun versus Indy at 7. Birmingham Legion versus Oakland Roots at 7:30. Detroit City FC hosting Tulsa at 7:30. Tampa Bay Rowdies hosting the Phoenix Rising at 7:30. And Orange County SC hosting San Diego Loyal at 10 o'clock. Sunday, May 7th, Las Vegas Lights FC hosting San Antonio. And then Saturday, May 13th, a slew of games. Louisville City versus Miami. Pittsburgh Riverhounds versus Birmingham Legion. Charleston Battery, San Antonio. I'm highlighting that one because Charleston Battery is currently top of the East and San Antonio is underperforming in the West. Seems like a pretty interesting matchup. Tampa Bay Rowdies and Detroit. Memphis hosting Colorado Springs Switchbacks. New Mexico hosting Monterey. El Paso hosting Loudoun United. Sac Republic hosting Indy 11. San Diego Loyal hosting Rio Grande Valley. Las Vegas Lights hosting FC Tulsa. Phoenix Rising hosting Hartford Athletic. And Oakland Roots hosting Orange County. So by the time we meet back up on the 14th of May, all of those matches will have been played. All right, so what happened with the Open Cup on April 25th and 26th? These were some big Open Cup matches. What teams from the lower leagues have moved on? April 25th, Charleston Battery beat Charlotte Independence in extra time 1-0 to start their season off. Well, they're doing well in the East. In the USL, they move on in this round of the US Open Cup. They're feeling pretty good. Pittsburgh Riverhounds, they beat the Bobcats 2-0. Rest in peace, Bobcats. Charlotte FC destroyed South Georgia Tormenta. Detroit City FC lose to Minnesota United. New England Revolution beat Hartford Athletic. St. Louis beat Omaha 5-1. Sporting Kansas City was able to turn it on against Tulsa 3-0. And Monterey Bay beat the San Jose Earthquake. So we did have Monterey Bay move on. We had Charleston Battery move on. Pittsburgh Riverhounds move on. The rest of them were pretty much MLS teams, crush their opponent, move on to the next round. FC Cincinnati beat Louisville City 1-0. That was a pretty fun matchup. Loudoun United ran away with it against City Union 5-0. Memphis 901 FC beat Atlanta United in extra time. That's a huge win, especially Memphis hasn't been great in the championship either. And they beat an MLS team who's been great to start the season and then kind of struggling again. The Crew beat Indy 11. DC United beat the Richmond Kickers. Inter Miami beat Miami FC in penalty kicks to move on. Houston Dynamo beat the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Legion beat Chattanooga in penalties. Chicago Fire beat Chicago House 3-0. Nashville SC beat San Antonio. Colorado Rapids beat the Northern Colorado Hailstorm. New Mexico beat Phoenix Rising. Las Vegas Lights lose to RSL in extra time. Sac Republic beat the Oakland Roots. Seattle Sounders got pushed to the limits against San Diego, but Sounders win in extra time. And Portland Timbers beat Orange County 3-1. So, again, on Wednesday, we had teams like Loudoun move on. We had Memphis move on. And we had Legion move on. And New Mexico moved on against their USL opponent. And that was it. It was Sac Republic as well. So looking ahead, May 9th through the 10th. So this will have taken place by the time we get back together to record again. We have Charlotte FC hosting Orlando City. Inter Miami hosting Charleston Battery. The New England Revolution will host the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. That'll be a tough match for the Riverhounds. The Revs have been playing outstanding. If Bruce Arena takes this seriously, which he usually doesn't, then Pittsburgh has some problems. But if New England Revolution are benching players, then Pittsburgh has a shot. Red Bulls hosting DC United. Chicago Fire hosting St. Louis. Minnesota United hosting Philadelphia Union. Monterrey gets to host LAFC. That should be a fun one. And Sac Republic hosting the Colorado Rapids. There's your USL teams on the first match day. Match day 2, Wednesday, May 10th, Cincinnati hosting NYCFC. Loudoun United gets to host the Columbus Crew. Birmingham Legion hosting Memphis 901. Houston Dynamo hosting Sporting Kansas City. That's a rivalry matchup. Not that they're lower league soccer at all, but that's a big matchup. Nashville SC hosting Dallas. Austin hosting New Mexico. That seems pretty fun. LA Galaxy hosting Seattle Sounders, and the Timbers hosting RSL. So from what I'm seeing from this, most likely we're not going to get a run by a USL team like the Republic making it to the final. It's just so heavily weighed in MLS favor going forward. All of these teams, we don't have a USL matchup. Well, we do. We have one USL matchup, Legion and Memphis, which guarantees a USL team making it through to the next stage. But if there's no upsets, there's a possibility that it's all MLS teams in the next round, except for that Legion and Memphis team. Not saying that's going to happen, but sometimes you just never know if there's going to be upsets. So it's a problem, right? We don't know how that's going to play out for the U.S. Open Cup. I really do want to see a USL Championship team get to the final again like last year, and I want them to win it. I really want them to win it just to show that I think it would put more emphasis on the cup, and I think it would show that this is a legitimate team. This championship team can make a run and win against the big boys in MLS. Well, that'll about wrap us up here for this week. In 2 weeks, we'll get back together on May 14th. We'll talk about all the action that happened since then. But thank you for watching The Closed Pyramid. Have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you next time.